Alright, Diablo 4 Sorcs, it is time to go back in time to Season 2's Ball Lightning build, updated for, of course, Season 7. There's been a few new toys that we have gotten. One of them is called Ocuan's Catalyst, which is a brand new unique offhand that's going to be meant for a spinning ball lightning build that's going to give us the ability to make it so ball lightning can be casted while moving, which is huge quality of life. It also lets you create a static field that is around you that's going to give you way more damage. Now, I do want to go ahead and give you guys realistic expectations. It will be able to clear all forms of content in World Tier 4. You can do the open world content. You can do whatever you need to do in the game. However, if you're only interested in doing pit 150s, well, you probably shouldn't have picked the Sorc, but it's still a fun build. It is more so considered off meta, but it is still, again, capable of just literally walking, and you pretty much get to delete all forms of content, and it will be able to have infinite mana and infinite sustain on the ultimate, which is a nice quality of life. So now that we have that out of the way, let's go over the skills and how we use them. So first off, we want to have Ice Armor. This is going to give us more survivability, but it's mainly used to proc a bonus that we're going to get on our key passive that will give us a burst of big damage. And then it also will help out with Talrashas, but we also have Ball Lightning. Ball Lightning is our main source of damage. You can see over on what I have bound to E, you can only get up to 20 orbits of Ball Lightning. They actually limit you in game. So once you're at 20, you don't really need to spam it anymore, but some of them will start to drop off as you keep on playing. So you'll have to activate another one, but you do not need an insane amount of attack speed in this build to the point where you're always maxed out and, well, you're just better off on getting either more damage in other ways versus getting more attack speed. So just keep in mind, 20 is the maximum amount of ball lightnings that you can have. We want to upkeep our unstable currents 100% of the time, and this will be very beginner friendly to actually be able to upkeep because of the rune choice. And then Arc Lash, we just equip it because it's another lightning skill, which will give us some extra damage. And then Flame Shield, we activate this pretty much whenever. We don't really need it for survivability. It activates Tall Rashas, but it also activates one of our key passives. And then we use Teleport for mobility. Now, the enchantments are kind of an option here. You can actually play Frostbolt if you want to. Frostbolt, Lightning Spear, and Ice Blades are the one that I would recommend. Maybe even Teleport if you really want extra mobility, but for the most part, you really can play with whatever you want. These just facilitate extra bonuses to get extra mana regen, as well as you get all these other things to kind of attack for you. There is a upgrade on the Ice Blades if you want to get extra cooldown, which can help out, but it's really just pretty minor, to be honest, but we just utilize these to get even more mana regen, so it kind of helps out. We could also collect the balls for mana regen, so the reason why I opted for this is because it really helps out with mana regen specifically. You also get bonus to movement speed, so the build will feel a little bit smoother. Now, as far as the gear goes, we have two build variants, and I will link them both in the pinned, or if you're watching this on TikTok, I'll link in the bio. There will be a no mythic version and a mythic version for the build, so if you happen to not have the mythics, you can still play this build. It will still function perfectly fine. It will just be a little bit less in terms of the DPS. It's specifically this over here, the Air of Perdition. You can also run Raiment of the Infinite if you want to suck up everything, but there's two other ways that you can suck the enemies with this build. You can vacuum them up, but Shroud of False Death, I just like it. It just gives you a bunch of all sets, which helps out with the Paragon. But on top of that, it just gives you a bunch of damage as well. But Raiment of the Infinite is also something you could play, even in the Mythic version, if you want to suck things up even more often. But for the helmet, we run Air of Perdition or Harlequin Crest. It's up to you. Do you need the armor? Do you need the damage reduction? I don't have every single piece of gear in the gameplay completely maxed out with the perfect master workings. It's just that I'm going to mark the ones that ideally this is what you would want. But Air Perdition just gives you a bunch of damage, plus 2 core skills is great as well. Harlequin will help out with cooldown reduction so you can maintain your ultimate more often, but it's fine if you happen to get really good rolls on, let's say, your Talrasha ring or on your amulet for the Temper. But specifically, this is one of the best in slots for a lot of different builds. And then we also run Shroud of False Death. Again, just gives us a lot of stats here. And then for our first offensive aspect, we're running Aspect of Shredding Blades, so that's going to give us extra vulnerable damage. The rest of the stats, well, it's cool that Ice Blades can apply vulnerability, but we get infinite vulnerability with our Witchcraft powers in Season 7, so you don't have to wait for this little delay, because the swords, they're not as fast as just automatically applying vulnerability. But ideally, we want ranks to core skills. This is very important. You do not roll ranks to ball lightning in your glove department. It actually rolls in the boots department. But yeah, Shredding Blades, getting core skill, attack speed, crit strike chances are all great. And the thing that you want to put on a lot of your offensive stats is shock, critical strike damage, and in any of the utility slots, you want to go ahead and throw on Chance to Freeze because we have a bonus on frozen targets. And then we run Tibalt's Will, just really great, gives us extra damage. You can run something else here if you really want to, but it also gives you maximum resource. You can also pop the potion for resource cost reduction and more maximum resource. It will help out with the build, as Ball Lightning can chew through your mana relatively quick, but you're going to see we have no problems with mana. If you are running into mana issues, just turn around, collect a couple balls, and keep on going. Or you could just have Tibalt's and then just teleport forward and you're going to be a-okay. It's specifically on the bosses where it may take 2 or 3 seconds, maybe up to 5 depending on how high you're going. If you're trying to do the pit, you will have to collect the balls in order to maintain your resources, but for the most part, yeah, you're just blasting through content. And then we also run gravitational aspects. So this has actually got changed in this season over here. We have the gravitational aspect, which used to let the balls spin around. Now it's with Okun's Catalyst. So this is something that is newer. So after you can create, you want the lowest roll, by the way, certain amount of ball lightnings, your next ball lightning will implode and it will suck up everything. So this is how we get our first suck, and also does some bonus damage. Just, again, it's used basically for the group up. And then on your boots, you do want to get armor and ball lightning. Or if you play Harlequin, you do not need to get armor in a couple pieces of the gear. You can also technically get it on your gloves, but ideally you get it on your boots, and then, yeah, you want Ball Lightning. And then Gravitational is, again, the thing that sucks in. Then we run Conceited on our weapon. We want ideally getting crit or vulnerable damage, and then we want the cast for Ball Lightning projectiles to cast twice. And then we also want the Shot Critical Strike chance. If we can run on a sword, cool. The rest of the things that you can get are fine. Just don't get the Overpower because it doesn't really help out with the build. Then in our amulet, we want to run the Storm Swell. So the Storm Swell will give us bonus damage while Ice Armor is active. We're going to have Ice Armor up pretty much 100% of the time, and it's increased by another 15% against frozen enemies. And that's why we want it in the amulet over here. It just gives us kind of like the higher numbers, but it doesn't really matter too much. The difference is 5%. But ideally, yeah, throw this in. Whatever has the highest roll over here. These ones actually have the same amount. However, again, depending on which one rolls higher, go for it. And then in our amulet, attack speed, you can get crit, you can get int, you can get elemental dominance, any of the passives that would give you bonus damage. Then you can throw on unstable currents cooldown. If you happen to have Harlequin, you do not need to start masterworking it, but if you don't, you might want to masterwork it a little bit so it's a little bit more comfortable, so you can 100% uptime your ultimate. And then we want to run Ring of the Starless Skies. Core skills does count because they made a change where mastery skills are also now core skills, so it's a huge bonus for us, and it's just one of the best multipliers in the game. Honestly, getting anything masterworked on this, except for Lucky at Chance, is going to be fantastic. And then just like every single Sorc build, we want to run Tal Rasha's Iridescent Loop. Getting cooldown reduction is great, non-physical damage is great, the rest of the stuff doesn't really matter. It's just used specifically for that high roll. Ideally, try to get that thing to be 25%. It's going to be the most bonus for the build, but cooldown reduction is also a pretty great stat. And then this is one of the brand new things, Okun's Catalyst, which allows you to have it so Ball Lightning orbits around you and it does the damage. And then you also have a chance for Ball Lightning to cast twice. You also get ranks to Ball Lightning, and you get damage reduction for each Ball Lightning. And then you get a big amount of attack speed after you use a defensive skill, which of course is going to be your Ice Armor, which is great. And then as far as the optional swaps, I mentioned a couple other items. You can run Fist of Fate, Asu's Heirlooms. The pants could be swapped out for regular pair pants if you want to. You get extra armor. I mentioned Rymond, Harlequin. All of the things are great things to go ahead and get. But as far as the runes, we run Igni Vex. Vex is going to help out with giving more ranks to Ball Lightning, because that's how we're basically scaling it. It also kind of helps out with some cooldown because you get plus to all of your skills. It goes up to +3. And then I really liked Tam and Zek, which reduces our cooldown of our ultimate. Now, you could also run Gar in place of any one of these if you want to. It's going to give you more crit. Ideally, you try to get 100% crit, and if you happen to have relatively okay-ish rolls, because again, this is going to give you crit. If you're running Harlequin, it will be a little bit harder to get 100% crit. You'll get like 90% crit on average, but it also depends on your masterworking rolls, on your Starless Skies, or if you get an amulet that rolls it. Yeah, you can run Gar definitely if you want a 100% crit in the build. And then for the Witchcraft powers, we want to run the Cycle because it's growth and decay. That's pretty much it. And then we run Hex of Shattering because it's going to apply the damage reduction. And then on top of that, it's going to have this where they do reduce damage. So it's going to affect enemies with this bonus. And then we have the Specialization, which is going to increase our crit. It actually does it by 20%. So we get 20% crit here. This is another growth and decay. And then it activates a damage source so we can get our bonuses, where the Eldritch effects will now apply vulnerability. So this is how we get vulnerability. It's a kind of like a melee build, so everything just gets tagged with vulnerability real fast. And then Soul Harvest, because it's in every single build, because, well, your main stat is pretty dang good. And then we can throw in our weapons. We can throw in extra crit, extra int. And then Friend of the Bog is in pretty much every single build, just gives you more of your primary stat. And then also we run Elder Sigil, which gives us bonus to mastery. Remember, Ball Lightning is a mastery and a core skill, so it's going to get us that bonus damage. And then also, it also gives us those skills deal increased damage to hexed enemies, and we're always going to hex them. And then we have Hungering Void to get even more pull-ins, so we get to suck up enemies more frequently with that. Now, as far as the skill tree, we'll go over the changes over here. So the first points, let's go ahead and actually make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. Shout outs to my mobile viewers. So in the very beginning, you just need to progress, but Arc Lash will just give you more damage because it's just on your bar. You don't have to even push the button at all. And then we also run Elemental Dominance because it counts as a core skill. We want more mana because, well, mana is good. And then if you want to dump more points into Teleport, be my guest, but just getting extra damage reduction is fine. We actually want Shimmering. It's going to make it so we get to activate Ice Armor 100% uptime. It's really great for that. We also get all of these like sources of damage reduction, extra increased damage. Then we also grab this to get extra barrier because we run Conceited. Primary Binding, this is why we actually want our summons. If you want to put points into the Ice Blades, it's fine. If you want to put points into the Lightning Spear to get the other one where they stun, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal, but getting extra movement speed and mana regen is kind of why we actually run this. And then we have mana shield, just like every single other build. And then we're going to be running Ball Lightning, of course. Now you could run either one. I'm running in the gameplay, I'm running the Wizard's Ball Lightning, so we have basically infinite mana. If you're like, yo, my mana is like perfectly fine, then you can run Mage's Ball Lightning. Run whatever one that you want. I found it to be like a little bit more rough on the bosses to have infinite mana if you don't take this one. So if you're just doing open world content and you just want even more damage, by all means go for it, but you really don't need it. But get it if you really want to try. And then as far as it goes, we're running Elemental Synergy. So again, the equip skills, you get some more damage there. And then we also want to run Permafrost. There's actually some changes here. So we're going to take all of these because as long as the frost skills on our bar, we just get extra 18x damage. We also have Hoarfrost, which gives us bonus to Frozen. How we freeze is the temper on our pieces of gear, and then it's just more damage to vulnerable. There's also this thing that got changed. Inner Flames used to be like pyromancy skills. It just works now, so it's great. And then if you want to dump more points, if you want to put 5 points into Unstable Currents, be my guest. But I'm pretty much able to keep it up 100% of the time. You only really want it specifically for the extra attack speed, honestly. That's like the main thing here. And then we can have extra chance to stun, but I just really like it for this. This is the only thing I really cared about, having the damage reduction here. Now, as far as the key passive, I was actually trying out both. Enlightenment seemed to be a lot better, but if you really want to, this one was not that bad over here. It's called Veer's Mastery. They take less damage, and then you have like this burst of damage that you can do. Its crits have a 10% chance, so you basically, once you're at 100% crit, you basically have 10% chance to deal 500% damage. But I think objectively this one's better because all of the non-physical scaling basically counts as triple because your cold, fire, lightning damage get added in. So how this works, and the reason why we play the other skills and why we spam ice armor even though it's already up, is because it's going to activate another skill that's not lightning. So how it works is we're going to be getting these stacks, and once we reach 100, we are going to be able to lose 10 stacks, but we get this bonus of 25x damage, mana regen, and even more attack speed. So it works really well in this build because attack speed is good for Ball Lightning. You'll see over on the bottom, well, actually there's probably too many buffs to kind of look at it, but what happens is there's going to be a number, it builds up to 100, and it builds up 1 each time unless you activate something that's a different skill. So if I go from, let's say, our Ball Lightning to Ice Armor, it's going to give me 8. And then if I go back to Ball Lightning, so it basically gives me 16 when I swap. So it's a really fast way to kind of make it go up even faster. But that is the skill tree. Now, the last part of the build is, of course, the Paragon board. So there's a couple different options, like I mentioned before. You can go ahead and play around with them, which I mentioned in the notes. But this is what I'm running. I'm running Adept, Unleash, Tactician, Destruction, and Exploit. So in the very first one, we run Adept. It makes our mastery skills bigger so we can have these register. I'm not sure exactly how it registers with the static field, but it does kind of help out if you're grouping up all the enemies to basically have a little bit more AoE. I liked it back in Season 2, and so I decided to kind of recreate this, but this one can definitely be swapped if you want to. After our starter board, we are going to be moving up into the fundamental release and unleash. The reason why I like unleash, it gives us magic, and all this non-physical damage will start going crazy with our key passive because we get the bonuses from all these 3 times, which is awesome. That's why I really like running unleash over here. And then we also get Frigid Fate with Tactician. This is going to give us extra damage when we use a defensive skill, which is going to be our teleport or our ice armor, and we're going to have that up 100% of the time. Then we go into Ceaseless Conduit, which is going to work with destruction, so it's a massive amount of extra crit damage that we're going to be getting with that. And then we're going to get Searing Heat with Exploit. And you might be thinking, what, Searing Heat, isn't that fire? It does say Pyromancy has additional critical strike chance, but that's not why we run it. We run it for all of your skills deal increased direct damage equal to your critical strike damage bonus. We're going to reach all of these. If you get the correct nodes, all of these are super easy to get. There's not like a very specific thing that you have to get, like a bunch of rolls on certain things. It's easy to max this build out. This one is all about crackling energy. Again, since you have like infinite ultimate, it's pretty easy. And then also when you're using Wizard's Ball Lightning, you're going to be generating those as well. But we also have the non-mythic version. Again, I'm just going to link it down below, but this is like basically the Paragon board and everything will be the same. The only differences are on some of the equips. Obviously, well, if you don't have the mythics, you can run different things. You can run Edge Masters, you can run Juggernauts, so you can max out on armor. You can also get cooldown reduction in your helm. But the non-mythic version isn't really like something that's like super bad. The one thing that I will say, if I could pick one mythic that really helps out the build, it's specifically getting Ring of the Starless Skies. The reason why is Ball Lightning, you spam it, it costs a lot of mana. If you don't have Ring of Starless Skies, mana could be a thing to just consider. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up. Have some fun, guys. It was a really fun build back in Season 2, and I wanted to relive the nostalgia, and obviously you guys can see it melts content pretty fast. Just don't expect to do a Pit 150 build with this build. Anyways, that's going to wrap things up. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. The links will be down in the pin or the link in bio on TikTok. But have some fun with the build. If there's any ways to improve it, definitely let me know, because I like this build. It's one of my favorite builds in like Diablo 4 for like its all time. It was really cool when it was in Season 2, and it was super broken. But have some fun with the nostalgic Ball Lightning build, man. GG's. Have a good one, guys.